Hi everybody, welcome to the dungeon. My name is Robin and today is Flameworking Adventures in Boroland. So a couple weeks ago, Patrick's youngest daughter, Sarah, had her bridal shower. She's getting married this November. And I really didn't have anything, any kind of a gift. So a few days ahead of time, I thought it would be really cool to make a small vessel for a bouquet. So I'm using borosilicate and some Boro color that I have for the vase. And then I'm going to jump into the effetry and we'll make the bouquet. So with that said, I hope you all enjoy this one. And as always, I hope you're all doing well out there. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time in the dungeon. All right, so here is what I have for this piece. I have my big and little Boro tubing, as well as some of this it's an aqua color and this magical Plum Kush that I found in my box. So we are going to start out with pulling these colors out. I did a little bit of research, watched some videos and stuff, and it looks like what I need to do is weld the color onto a clear rod and just pull it out into a thinner rod. And it really is easier said than done. And so what I ended up doing was getting this glass hot and then getting it hotter and getting it even hotter before I could even get it to move. The difference is amazing. So I really had my oxygen a little higher for pulling out this color. And what I'm doing is just keeping the bulk of I keep feeding the bigger rod into the flame and pulling it out on the other side. And it worked out okay, but I see that I seriously need practice on this one to get a nice, even sized rod of color. But it worked in the end. It all worked out in the end. And I'm going to do the same thing with this, kind of aqua color. All of the color and the tubing size is at the bottom of the description. So check that out if you are interested in what I'm using. And I'm going to pull this color out. I thought I'd try it the opposite direction, see which one worked out better. And this one kind of worked out a little bit better, but I also noticed that this color was slightly different from that Plum Kush. And I did a little reading up on that Plum Kush, and I guess I kind of hit a little lottery in my box of glass that I received, because it just so happens that this Plum Kush was the very first borosilicate color that they put sparkle in. So that made me really happy. Anyway, I'm going to start out with my little straw tube, and I need to open it up and kind of flange it out a little bit into a funnel. And it takes me a second because I'm trying to open it, but at the same time I'm cooling it down with my graphite rod. So I found that using my little tweezers, my tungsten tweezers, really helped out. They're like a little tiny pair of jacks. So we open that up, but you see how it doesn't quite fit to the big tubing? So what I figured is that I would just cinch this tubing down a little bit, just heat it up and taper it, and I'm just going to roll it on my graphite and kind of roll inward a little bit, and that gave me the perfect opening size to then attach these two pieces to. So I'm going to weld these on, and I'm really close to the cones here. It seems like you can get really, really close down in there and weld that glass on. And I want to be careful to stay away from the smaller tubing. I just want to try to weld on that seam, and I blow into it just a little bit to make sure that there is a good seal there. And then I'm going to move down a couple inches into the larger tubing and start to cinch it down, heat it up real good, and then heat it up more. It's crazy how hot you have to get this stuff. So I'm just going to heat it as much as I can and start to gently pull it away. I don't want to pull it away too fast. I need thickness at the bottom. So what I'm going to do here is even out the bottom by pulling that little bleb out of the tip. And then I'll spend a little bit of time heating the bottom back up in order to thicken the bottom. I probably didn't even need to do this because I'm going to be adding a whole bunch of glass down there, or not down there, but I'm going to add my color now. And I probably didn't need to thicken that up. Anyway, you know, I really don't have much practice with Boro color. And right here, when I started to wind it up the tube, I was kind of like shocked at how stiff the glass still is, even being in a thinner stringer form. So it took about maybe a good 5 to 7 minutes to wind all of this glass up on the tube. I just have it sped up a little bit here so we can do this a little bit quicker. This whole process took a couple hours to do. I'd say about, well, I can't say a couple hours. It took about an hour and a half to complete this whole piece. But I did also have my torch. I was really torquing on the oxygen because I was reading about the color, and they say that Boro color tends to like a little heavy on the oxygen, more of an oxy concentrated flame. Okay, so to heat this up, I'm introducing my outer flame. Finally, you guys get to see the outer flame in action. You know, I wouldn't even be doing this Boro stuff if it weren't for you guys. I really have been inspired by all of your comments and everything, and because you guys have been curious, you know, about the Boro side of things in my journey, it's been, you know, I love to challenge myself too. So it's been great to be able to bring this stuff to you. And the fact that I just got some, you know, Boro tubing to work with, which makes it even better. Plus, I've been wanting to, you know, make something to put my little bouquets of flowers in, because all of a sudden I have a whole bunch of them. Anyway, with this color, I have been just heating and doing my best to smooth everything out. And I have a mini pair of diamond shears that came in handy here. So I'm just going to cut the bottom off because I ran out of my my color stringer. And that's fine. This is big enough for me. And I thought for a second I could just pinch these little areas together, that there was still a little bit of clear showing. Yeah, it was harder than I thought. It's so much easier to do in the soft glass. But I was able to kind of pinch those closed a little bit, and they made an indentation in the glass, which took even longer to get out. So I'm realizing that the more perfect you can do everything, the easier it is, which is usually true for anything, but you know, you always have to have that practice. And this is the third one I've done. So here I'm going to just continue to roll out and shape the color onto the tubing. I just want to make sure everything is as smooth as possible and as incorporated as I can get into, you know, the whole bundle of glass. So I'm shaping the bottom up a little bit now, and I'm going to roll that top out a bit and just continue heating and heating and heating. And when I think I'm done heating and it's hot enough, I'll heat it some more. It seems like that's how far you have to go and heat the glass, even more so now that there's color on it, because gosh, the color seems a lot stiffer than the clear. Okay, now that I am getting to my final shape, what I want to do is start to blow it out just a little bit. And I also want to punchy up the bottom. I got to figure out what I'm doing here. I had a friend at the very beginning when I started, when we moved into the glass pavilion. I had a friend that worked there. I called him G for short, and he was a Boro worker. So see how I'm blowing in there a little bit? I'm just looking to, and I was blowing pretty hard. I'm just looking to make sure the shape is nice and rounded and is looking good. So at this point, I'm going to weld a punty onto the bottom and stretch out the neck. And then I'll get into blowing the bottom half. I don't necessarily know what the order is that most people do. I'm just thinking about how things are done in the hot shop when I'm doing all this. And I could have put that clear up a little higher because, yeah, I'm sorry, the color. I could have put the neck up a little higher in the color because that clear is definitely softer than the color. So I'm going to stretch this neck out and let it cool down when I'm ready, and then focus everything else on the bottom half and just blowing out just something a little bit bigger than I had in the previous vessel that I made. The previous vessel was about a little bit, maybe 1.5 inches. This one is almost 3 inches, so maybe 2.5, we'll say. So I felt like I made progress on this vessel since the last one. So here I'm going to heat up as much as I can and blow into the bottom. And I was blowing super, super hard and nothing happened, so more heat. But yeah, my friend G, he really inspired me to do a lot more in Boro and give it a chance. And that's how I got into making the Victorian icicles. He was the first one to show that technique to me and shared with me how it's a great way to practice, working in Boro by making the icicles. So I just focused on that for years and years. And now I'm just really super happy to be able to get into some of this kind of Boro work. Okay, this last time I feel like I blew it out pretty good here. I do see some little bubbles where the color, lifted up from the clear, but I'm like so happy here. I am going to continue to move on. I just can't believe I blew it out evenly. That just that's like almost a first. I've only done this a few times. Okay, so before I do anything, now I want to heat a little bit more of that bottom, like 1/2 inch of glass at least. I want to build up on the bottom to create a foot for this to stand on. Making the foot, I would love to do a blown foot, but no, I'm not quite there yet. So I'm going to heat this up really, really hot and just focus on the clear, just the clear. And then I'll flatten it down. But oh yeah, it was he was the first one to introduce me to the Boro work in tubing, and I was always fascinated by it. But I knew, just the pricing of Boro in comparison to Fettri and Moretti and the soft glass, it's just such a huge difference. So I stick with the soft glass because I'm used to it and I like the price. But this is so much fun. So I'm trying to flatten the bottom of this now. And I always notice that sometimes when you're heating the bottom, it will kind of round out again. So it kind of wobbles when you stand it up. So I'm going to try to press an indentation in the very bottom of this foot. And I am in hopes that that will help me to make an easier standing vessel. And this is where I shakily let go and it's standing. So that I'm happy, and I'm going to move on and put a little punty on the bottom and do my best to get it on center. It's not easy for me to work with just, by holding things with one hand. Having two handles is really nice. Here's where I forget what I'm doing. And, I was going to pull this off and blow out a little hole, but instead I thought, well, I've seen people do this whole thing with the diamond shears, and then they, break off the other side of the tubing. And as I watch it back, I realized what I did wrong. So the whole thing kind of like fell apart here as soon as I tapped it. I just give it one more kind of little bit of a crunch here, and it just did not work out so well. I think I needed to cool things down a little bit. Either way, I was able to save it. It jumped under my torch, and I was able to grab it with a pair of tweezers and stick it right back on that punty. Exciting. It's always something. All right, it wouldn't be one of my videos if I didn't fumble around here and there. So now I gotta try to get my little tungsten pick in the opening and make sure there's an opening there, and then very gently try to get in there and use those as like a pair of jacks to start making that hole a little bit bigger. And then I'll bring in a finer pointed graphite stick, and I'm just trying to, figure this whole lip thing out. And I know what needs to happen is that the lip needs to be fine-tuned, like a little bit should be pulled off and thinned out so it's more even. But my heart was like racing at this moment because I'm like, oh my gosh, I am so close to the end. And if I can just get the lip a little bit wider so I can put a lip wrap on it, I'm done. So, as I get more comfortable with this process, I'll probably go in and refine things as I get more comfortable. Anyway, after a sloppy start, I get this lip wrap on there, and I'm going to heat that back up, add a little bit more if I can. Like I said, it's just not the easiest thing for me to do with the shaky hands, but if I can do it, so can you. Okay, so I'm going to flatten that down a little bit and kind of use my my torch head and the roundness of it to help the neck out a little bit. And then I'm just going to putz around with this opening a little bit more. So if you guys haven't looked at all of the playlists that I have for Flameworking, I do have a borosilicate Adventures in Boroland playlist. And this will be in that lineup as well. So we are just about done with this. I'm like so happy just to get it looking kind of even. So I'm going to call this one just about finished. I do want to get in there one more time and tweak the neck a little bit more with those with that tungsten tweezers. I love this tool, you guys. A little bit more. I'm telling myself, stop, don't push it, don't push it. So I'm just going to grab the opening now with a warm pair of tweezers, break it off the punty, and I want to make sure it's going to stand up. So I take a moment one more time to make sure that punty mark is nice and warm and hot. I don't think I'll ever get over the difference between hard and soft glass. All right, let's check it out here. And yes, yay, it stands. All right, you guys, I'm going to put this in my oven, and then we will move on and make this bouquet. Okay, so moving on to our soft glass, I have a whole bunch of 4-inch wires that are copper, and they are 20 gauge. And I have one in a pin vise ready to go. And I'm going to start out with the, this is all soft glass from here on out. This is just a green, and I'm going to, instead of trying to apply it by rolling it on there, I just kind of twirl the glass on the end of the wire, and it doesn't want to stick immediately to the copper wire. So what I end up doing is getting my glass hot and then lifting up to the copper wire under the flame until the glass wants to stick to it, and then kind of swirl it around, and that can help to start out with your little bundle. And I added some more to it, a little bit of transparent green. I thought the effect looked great, and I made like 4 or 5 of these. I made more. I try to make as many of each one of these as I could, so I had some nice ones to pick from. And I'm just going to flatten it down and then immediately heat up both sides, and then just come out of the heat and very gently grab it with a warm rod and very gently start to pull out. Everything has to happen like 1, 2, 3. If you're heating up a disc that's really cold, it can come out looking a little different. Anyway, I'm going to make as many of these as I can and undo my pin vise, which can be kind of a hassle. And then I can put those underneath either a fiber frac or throw it in my oven and let them cool down later on. And then the next one I'm going to make, I think I'm making 4 different types of fauna here, flora or fauna, either one. I'm going to add a little tiny bit of a green rod or stringer just to the end, and then on top of that I want to build up a few dots of this pink. It's kind of like a rusty rose pink, really pretty color. And in between that, so now we have the green dot and the pink dot. Now in between those, I'm going to add a disc of this coral color. And I thought this would look really nice and represent some kind of flower out there. Just little disc flowers, I'll call them. I have so many bundles now of these bouquets. I'm going to be offering a different bouquet every month of the year now at the Adrian Arts Center. So that should be a lot of fun. So once I have added about 3 wraps, 3 little discs there, I'm going to add the tiniest little Swiss dot, even smaller than a Swiss dot, tiniest dot that you can, of the intense black. And that's it. Each one of these pieces took maybe two maximum minutes to make. And this one is really simple. This is just a very small, it would be maybe a flower bud or a seed pod. And this is just the regular ivory. And I'll just wrap that around the end of my copper. You got to be super careful with the copper. You just never want to overheat it because it's going to melt immediately in your flame. So my copper wire never really goes into the flame. It just stays under the flame as my clear glass wants to stick to it as it drops onto it through the flame. And then I'll let that cool down and add 3 teeny tiny little Swiss dots of the coral right on top, and that's it. And I'll make several of those. So anytime you have like 3 or 6, I love when numbers work in 3s. You really just have a nice variety of things to work with. So I made at least 3 of each of these to play around with. Now this one, what did I just put on there? I can't, it's a green, okay. Back to the green again. And now with this one, I'm just gonna add the coral again and add a couple little, like a bigger ball on the end of the green ball. And I can let that stretch out a little bit if I want to. But what I'm gonna do here is make these little tiny buds. And I'm going to, you let that cool down, and then you're going to gently kind of swipe in a curl, 3 lines. So you're going to curl 3 lines Start at the bottom, twist your mandrel and work your way up to the top. And then you'll have a really cute little flower bud. And what I'll do on the tip of this, and I have these very, very sharp tweezers, I will just grab the very, very tip and give it a quick swirl. And that's it for the little flower buds. I thought these were awesome and really, really cute. But it's very, very helpful to have those needle sharp tweezers for that fine, fine pinch at the tip. All right, so for the last one, I believe this is the last one, I'm gonna do a another kind of seed pod flower bud looking thing. Now, I've been starting out with this green cane here. It's a thinner cane, but it is made up of several different shades of green, like a dark green, a light green, and maybe a dark transparent green. And it just looks really nice and gives a beautiful color variety to the green areas of your bouquet. So on top of that, we're going to add another very simple dot of the coral. Can you see the theme of her colors of her wedding? They're not exactly these colors, but they're close. So I'm going to hold that down to elongate it a little bit. It's so fun to play around with just these very simple little variations on adding dots. And here I'm just going to add a whole bunch of little tiny dots, little Swiss dots, all around it, big and small, until I'm happy. And that is pretty much it for our bouquet and for the whole piece. I let this cool down, and after I'm done, I just twisted everything together the way I liked, popped it in my vase, and off it went. Sarah loved it, so I hope you guys do too. And with that said, I hope I see you guys again soon in the dungeon.